Welcome to Across the Pond, a podcast for leaders in market research to help them grow their insight agencies, with Steve Henke and Paul Griffiths.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back. Good to see you all again. I guess I can't really see you, but welcome back. It's good to have you here. Thanks for joining us. This is Across the Pond, a podcast for growing your insights agency, season 2, episode 3, I think, Paul.
Yep.
I'm Steve Henke with Harpeth Marketing.
And I'm Paul Griffiths from Client Advocates. And today's episode is all about, should you outsource your sales and marketing to third parties? And I think we probably just need to start off by saying, obviously, Steve and I could be considered to be outsourced partners. So we have some skin in the game on this one. But that aside, I hope what we're going to do is talk some sense about where you might want to think about doing this to help the growth of your agency, and where actually we think you're better to build it internally and do it yourselves. So we are going to try and be as objective as possible. And if we're not being objective, I hope either we'll call each other out, or you as our listeners or viewers will sit there and go, no, they're being self-serving.
But if we're compelling, feel free to call us.
Right, there's Mark 1 on self-serving. Right,
Okay, sorry.
Let's get through this. Right, so should you be outsourcing your sales and marketing to third parties? I am going to start off by saying it depends. I think it depends on the size and scale of your agency. I think it depends on your priorities. I think it depends on your budget. And I think it depends on whether you've got a short-term expedient need to do something because you've got a revenue squeeze, or you're coming to the end of the year, or you've just had resource people walk out of the business, or whatever else, versus actually the fact that you just need to build this into as part of your skill set of your agency going forward. So I think I'm sitting on the fence, but I think it does depend. But let's get into some detail on some specifics, because that might well help us be a bit more directive or a bit more helpful in terms of our listeners and what they should do.
You want me to go ahead and start, Paul?
Yeah, go for it.
I've got some kind of a list of why you should and why you shouldn't. Like you,
Okay.
I'd say I'm on the fence, so I'll try and be even-handed about this. I think on the positive side, why you should consider outsourcing, you get immediate access to expertise and skill that you probably don't have in-house.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you get access, if you're trying to get some horrible example might be, your SEO for your website, probably a skill set you don't have in-house, but you can immediately get access to that and start to see pretty quick results if you outsource it. So I think that access to expertise and knowledge that you might not have in-house is, to me, a big plus for outsourcing.
And I totally buy that. The good example for my business, I outsource my accountancy. I am not an accountant. I'm never going to be an accountant. There is no way I can monetize the accountancy skills that I would need to in this business. And actually, it's a very poor use of my time to spend time doing accounting stuff. So I outsource that. I would suggest something like SEO actually is a good example of something that is probably well outsourced, because it moves quite quickly. It's not something that you need to spend a lot of time on all of the time. So therefore, don't have it as a core capability in your sales and marketing commercial activity. Outsource it to a third party and get help and support when you want. Other things, though, however, I think you should build into your business. The specifics around, we've already talked and have an episode around account management. Please don't outsource account management to freelancers or to people that aren't related to your business or don't have revenue targets and aren't accountable to you. I say that with some, because I've seen agencies actually do that, where they've gone, yeah, we had a key account, we brought a freelancer in, they've ended up running the account for us. And I'm like, please stop that with immediate effect, or as soon as you possibly can. That is not a good use of an outsourcing.
You said something that made me think of two different things. One, you talked about outsourcing your accounting. I do the same thing. I don't do bookkeeping or accounting. I probably could, at least part of it. I don't even send out my invoices. My bookkeeper does that for me, because the benefit of that is, and this is one of the benefits of outsourcing, it allows you to focus on your core business.
Yes.
Right. It doesn't,
Completely.
You don't take your eye off the ball. I am focused on my business that kind of thing, that's what you outsource. So I agree with that. I think the other thing you said was, you don't need SEO all the time. True, probably not. You need it intermittently. So spending on outsourcing it's efficient, right? You kind of get what you pay for. Now, it can be expensive. That's sort of the flip side. It's not that it's inexpensive to do that, but if you're going to spend X for SEO work for a month, that's all you spend and it's done and it's efficient and you move on. I think both of those things, it's efficient and maybe most importantly, it allows you to focus on your core business, are important advantages to outsourcing.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think the one that always I get asked about is, should we hire a lead gen agency? Should we hire a business development agency to do our cold calling or our LinkedIn outreach or our email outreach? And I do have a view on this, which is, if at all possible, don't. That's not that there aren't some good agencies out there that do some of this stuff. I think there are. But I think that is one, in terms of your commercial ongoing success, building that capability and building that ability to do that in-house should be something that most businesses do and do effectively. I always get very nervous when it's, we don't do sales, we outsource that to somebody else. It's like you're not in control of a very significant lever in your business. So I would always advise people to be, if you do going to do lead gen, it's very, very short, or it's because you're trying to build the capability internally and this is a good way to learn how to do it maybe, but you do it briefly and quickly on the basis that should not be something you are leaning into a lot of the time. What do you think, Steve?
I may have a slightly different perspective on that, Paul. I don't disagree. If you can do it all in-house, then do it in-house. But you also mentioned sales, and I think there's a big difference between lead gen and sales.
Okay.
So if you're hiring an agency to stir up some names, whether it's to agree to a meeting or they download one of your white papers, and so you're creating names that then internally your salespeople or seller doers follow up with, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I would never want to outsource the sales process from lead gen to proposal to anybody. But I think, if the front end is important to get the ball rolling, then bring it in-house, that's fine. I think the other thing, particularly for either new firms or small firms, is how big's your database of potential clients, right? If you have 100 names in your database, then you probably need to outsource. If you had 5,000 names, okay, you've got something to work with. So to your point, I think it's all situationally dependent, but if you need to kind of kickstart the sales engine, I don't think there's a big problem with bringing in somebody from the outside to get you those, let's call them semi-qualified leads for you to talk with down the road.
Yeah. I'm not sure I agree at all, actually. And I've seen agencies try and do that. And as I said, there are good lead agencies out there, but I don't think the way that the commercial relationships work, they're incentivized to get you meetings. They're not necessarily incentivized to give you meetings that are qualified, that are able to give you the opportunity to talk about a genuine opportunity to help with a client. And we've talked at length over this season and last season about the importance of building personal relationships. And I think that's where this falls down. I also think there are a number of relatively cheap tools out there where you can do this yourself. So, I'm always saying to my clients, use LinkedIn Sales Navigator. You can turn it on for a month, or you can turn it on for a smaller period of time to build out that list. And then once you've built out that list, find the time to start engaging with that list yourself if you can, because things like LinkedIn don't work well if you haven't got a personal relationship. And I think clients smell the where they've been nurtured and somebody's engaging with them, and we want to meet. Here's some information, here's some content, here's some confirmation. Do you want to meet? And then they turn up and it's like, who was that guy? Who was that person? I don't know. They're no longer here. Suddenly we were talking to an account director from agency X. And I think that is where it falls over. And I think the amount of charge and the amount of money you get to spend for those lead gen agencies, you might get a quick uplift. You might get some meetings in the first couple of months, but then my observation is it tends to drop off. And that's because they don't understand enough about your business. They don't actually understand enough about your key accounts or your accounts and the business problems you're trying to solve. So I would do it if you really, really have to, if you've got a really good, acute short-term shortage of leads and conversations, but please, over the medium term, try and build your own capability to do that. It'll be cheaper, and I think you'll do it better.
I can't argue with that too much, Paul, other than that very last part. I think you'll do it better.
Yeah.
There needs to be somebody in-house that has some understanding of a good sales process and be able to implement and have the time to implement. If that's in place, then yeah, get your sales navigator and go to it. I'm kind of with you there.
That's fair. And maybe this is the, it's the situational thing. I would probably be telling most of my clients, you need to now be building a sales function. It might only be just one person. And it might be actually not even a very expensive person. It might be a more junior person who can do that warming up and to do that relationship and that contextual building over a large number of contacts and leads to allow your account directors and the more senior people to get access to those individuals. So yeah, and so this may be, the short-term outsourcing of that is a response to while we build a nascent sales function.
I'll give you one more benefit to outsourcing that I hear a lot with our clients, and I imagine you do too, is if you bring in somebody from the outside, well, sort of by definition, you're getting outside perspective.
Yeah.
You're getting different perspective. You didn't grow up inside that company, so you don't have this myopic view. So I think one of the things that a lot of outsourced agencies provide is not only an outside perspective, but maybe they've got perspective from other industries too.
Yes.
A lot of people in our industry kind of grew up in this industry. But for others like me, we started somewhere else. And so we have other perspectives that can also apply here that will seem like very fresh perspectives to our clients because they've sort of got this myopic view of things. And so it just opens their eyes a little bit. They still may say no, and that's fine, but we give them some other options they might not otherwise have had.
And I think that's right. And I think that fits with I think that fits. So for me, if someone says to me in an agency, we want to refresh our brand, I will go immediately talk to a branding consultancy, bring in somebody who understands marketing and branding, understands market research and insight and an industry, understands the client needs and the profile of that. Because you absolutely need that third party objectivity, that experience, that creativity to do it. So brand consult, again, market research agencies, we might be able to track and understand and research brands. We don't necessarily know how to design logos and strap lines and design Pantene colors and all of that stuff. Same actually with website build. I would be kind of like, you know what? Outsource, get it off your plate. Please don't do it yourself. Please don't do it yourselves. I think I absolutely agree. If you want objectivity, if you want rigor, if you want an objective view on a process or a system, or you want to introduce something new or transformational in your business, bringing in an expert from outside, a consultancy, whatever it might be, I think is a great way of outsourcing. And it comes back to how long are you going to spend messing around on Pantene colors and do an average job versus hopefully a decent brand consultant who knows and is trained and has got years of experience of doing this stuff.
Agree 1,000%. Can we talk about a couple of the disadvantages of outsourcing so that we have a fair and balanced podcast?
No, absolutely.
I think the ones that you and I probably hear more than anything is, well, it's expensive. Yeah, it is, right? On an hourly basis or a project basis, we're not inexpensive, but frankly, neither are research agencies. So I do believe you get what you pay for. It can seem very expensive for what you get versus bringing in somebody from building it internally. But to the point I made earlier, you're only paying for what you're getting. There's no extraneous costs. You don't have to worry about having an office for somebody and paying benefits and all those other things. You want somebody to do SEO, you hire them to do SEO, and that's all they do, and it's efficient, although it can feel like it's fairly expensive. I think that's one that we get sometimes. The other one that's a bit of a challenge, and it is for us, probably is for you too, Paul, is sometimes because you're not in the same office or even in the same time zone, coordination and communication can be a challenge sometimes.
Yeah.
So the client has a question, you might not be available, or you have a question, the client might not be available. Instead of just walking down the hall and saying, hey, take a look at this, it might be a couple of days as opposed to a couple of hours. And so you get into those challenges of communication and coordination that can be all fixable and you work through them, but they are obstacles in the process of working with outsourced agencies.
I recognize that. I have to say, I think that is less of a problem than it used to be because we've all got so much more used to working virtually. Many of my clients don't sit in their agents, the agency teams don't sit in the same place at the same time. So I think that is less of a challenge than it maybe used to be. The other thing that I do get asked by clients all the time is, do you think we should be outsourcing our marketing and content provision? Now, I don't have skin in the game on this one. I do not do marketing and content provision. And I know you do, Steve. I'm sure you have a view on it. For what it's worth, I think it is worthwhile doing that if, according to the kind of the stipulations that I've set, actually you don't have that skill internally, or it's a skill that's going to take you a long time to develop and build, or where your research and insight teams are so busy if they're doing the account management and they're doing the good sales stuff and engagement and they're doing the project work, actually expecting them to create lots and lots of content, certainly at a brand level, I think it is worthwhile looking at that as an option. I think what happens is situationally over time, as you get bigger and you're more successful, you can start to then think about bringing in a marketing manager or somebody to do some of it. Maybe they're outsourcing bits of it. So, if you want to do a podcast, bring in a marketing agency that knows how to do a podcast to augment your marketing stuff. But that's with no skin in the game, I think it is worthwhile looking at your marketing content. But to Steve's point, think about how you're going to use it and where it's going to give you and deliver the most value and where is it most expedient.
Yeah. I do have skin in the game, but if it's okay, I'm still going to answer the question in a balanced way. I think it's absolutely possible, and at times, to your point, the right thing to do is to outsource marketing and content creation as an example. I think that really depends on who you hire.
Yeah, okay.
Right? If you hire a marketing agency, that could be a problem. If you hire a marketing agency with experience in market research or expertise in market research, that's way better. Still doesn't mean that the agency you hired knows your business the way that you know your business, doesn't know your clients the way you know your clients.
Sure.
We face this regularly. I mean, we focus on the research industry, but we don't know our clients' business like they do. So part of the creation process involves some collaboration, right? So if we're going to, my writers are great and can write pretty much about anything, but we don't know, for example, data analytics at any level of detail. So what we'll do is we'll sit down with their data analytics specialist and kind of do an interview type thing to get some better relevant, more appropriate information to include in whatever content we're creating. So it's certainly possible. I would just, if you're looking to partner to outsource this for whatever reason, just find somebody that generally knows your business, knows your industry. If you take a generic agency off the street, a generic branding agency, whatever it is, you don't want to have to spend all your time teaching them your business and your industry.
Yeah. And look, I should have made myself clear on that one. I would never advise a market research and insight agency to use a marketing agency that doesn't know the industry. Sorry, and maybe that's
But they do, Paul. They do, because it's the agency happens to be in the office next door to them in their building, that kind of thing. It happens. And I understand that's fine. But it just creates another set of hurdles they need to get over to get some effectiveness out of that outsourced agency.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand it, and I think it's silly. So there you go. Which note, we're over time again. We've crept over by a minute and a bit. Steve, I hope our audience has found that useful. I hope they found it balanced. I think we've been balanced. That's episode 3 out of the way. Other episodes will be in the pipeline. And I think we've asked our audience for some questions. So maybe we might do an audience question session next. Or there might be some other things. I'm still knocking on about CRM systems. Maybe we do one on CRM.
That may be a solo podcast.
But look, thank you as ever for your time, your effort, your intellect, your wisdom, and see you on the next one, dude.
Paul, the pleasure is all mine. For all of you listening in or watching, thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you. This was episode 3. We'll see you on episode 4, not too long. Thanks.
Excellent. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching and listening to Across the Pond. Get in touch with Paul at clientadvocates.co.uk and Steve at harpethmarketing.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.